Welcome to episode 3, Riding with the Rector. Of course, I'm a vicar and not yet a rector, but hopefully our church one day big enough that I would be the rector of the Dark County Anglican Church, but I'm holding on to it because I like the alliteration. Well, hey, this is episode 3. Episode 1, we looked how God pre-exists creation, and then we look at how God starts organizing not just our physical space, light and dark, days and nights, but he starts organizing our moral space. Good, not as good. He hasn't called anything bad yet. We will get to a point where God starts to acknowledge wickedness. But right now, we're still in that space where God is talking about good and then the absence of good. That is, the day is good and night is dark. Well, the next thing that starts happening is God begins the creative processes. And the first thing he does is he gathers water apart from the land. And so the dry spaces are called land. And then, of course, there are the waters. Now, in the Jewish tradition, water is very scary. The Jews were not seafaring people. When they were wealthy enough to have a navy, they basically just bought the Phoenician navy and said, hey, you guys are great at this. Here's some gold. Be our navy. So in this time, those who are writing Holy Scripture are not seagoing, seafaring people. The sea is this scary, demonic space out of which comes the things that ails you. That's just the way their literary tradition works. And in the West, we have our own literary tradition where this is good and that is bad. So it's not to add a value judgment to water versus not water. That's just the literary reality. And so for God to organize the land and the water, and he is sovereign over the land and the water. But now we have land. We have a space where water is absent. We have a space where the goodness of God can start to host the rest of the good order that God is on the way to creating. And so this second day with the gathering of land is so important to what's going to come next. Just off the top of my head, I'm remembering that I was listening to a Hebrew scholar, a woman who wrote a book called The Grammar of God, which I would really recommend to anybody who's curious about Hebrew poetry and literature, that apparently God does not declare anything good on the second day. He waits for the third day to declare the created order good. So the first day good, third day good, second day God does not say, and it was good. That refrain in the music is missing. Is that just a poetic device to kind of catch our attention? Maybe. Is that saying something morally about the difference between land and water, that maybe it's kind of morally neutral? Maybe. It's worth exploring and opening up commentaries and see what they say. Just off the top of my head, all I can say is that there is no distinction on day 2 about good versus bad, if I'm remembering this commentary correctly. And so we're going to have day 2 end with light, dark, days, nights, land, water. So long.